Bung Pod. Welcome back, Wine Wonderboy.
We got Jazzy J. Jazzy!
What is a bung?
The hole of the barrel is called a bung hole. Inside the bung hole is called a bung. Wine with mayhem. That's what it's about. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Bung Pod. It's your boy Ian King, aka Wine Wonderboy. I have my co-host with me, Jazzy J. Say what's up. We have an awesome guest today for you guys. This is our first remote podcast experience, so this will be very fun and a learning experience as well. But we have Wine with Paige with us. What up, Paige? How's it going?
Hello. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good. Could use some more sunshine. It's been gray and dreary in Napa, but other than that, great.
Nice. So you're based in Napa. We're up here in Washington State, Chelan area to be specific. You were up here recently. How was your visit here? Did you enjoy it?
It was great. I need to come back. I was there just like 2 days, so too short.
Yeah, super short.
But it was beautiful. It was fantastic. Great wine, great people. It was fun.
Have you had many Washington wines before?
Yes. I will say I drink a lot of California being in California.
Totally.
But I love Washington wine. And so, yeah, I've had a fair share.
Okay, nice. Mostly from Walla Walla or?
Yeah, so Walla Walla was my first Washington trip. I went 2022, I think. And so that was my first Washington trip. And I feel like, I drink a lot of Walla Walla. Just kind of Washington in general. So Lake Chelan and then Rocky Ridge were new to me. So it's fun.
Absolutely. Do you remember any Walla Walla wines that you had that were of note? Any producers that you can remember? It was probably a while ago, but
I should have referenced my notes. Even I have to reference my notes for everything.
I know. I mean, you have so many wines; it's hard to remember all of them. You know.
He's actually really good at that for some reason. He just has a little index in his head, and I'm like, how in the world do you remember all that? I don't understand.
Well.
I wish I could. My New Year's resolution this year was to keep a running Excel sheet of everything I've tasted this year. Mm-hmm. And I did really well in January, and I haven't updated it since.
Oh, no.
I have photos because when you're doing walk around tastings or when you're out tasting with people, it's hard to obviously update an Excel sheet. Yeah. So I've taken photos of everything intending to put it in, but it's been 2 months now. So I might have lost that.
Yeah. Are you drinking anything right now?
Just water.
Just water? You got some water? That's cool. We have a little Shannon Blanc right here from the Loire Valley. Francois Chedane, the producer, near Vouvray, but he's amazing. He's a really small producer in the Loire Valley. The wine shop I used to work for in Santa Barbara, we always brought it in. It's really good. So let me ask you the first question I have on my list. Tell us a little bit about your wine background. What's your experience in wine and how you got into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my wine background started with Wine for Dummies. I was in college. I was freshly 21. I was going through a business program. And I felt like I really didn't fit in with the other business school kids. And I was okay, what do business people know about how do I fit in this business world? And I was wine and golf. But it was December when I decided this. So wine was the choice. Yeah. And it was Christmas break. I picked up Wine for Dummies over break, devoured it, and immediately fell in love with just the depth and breadth that wine covers. I wasn't even drinking it at that point. I just really from a nerdy perspective fell in love with it. And
was it well written?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well written.
I'm always
very easy to understand. My parents don't drink at all, so I had no wine background at all. And I felt like it covered everything really well. I really liked it. It's my most recommended book to people when they're trying to figure things out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And from there, I picked up every single book I could find in my library and just became obsessed. And since then, I've done my WSET 2, my WSET 3, and I'm a certified American wine expert.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Hey, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Eventually I want to go on and do more, but it's hard to run a business and study at the same time.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely. I want to do my diploma at some point, and then the French wine scholar is really interesting. I'm a little bit of a Francophile, so that would be really fun. I think
that would
as
be.
well. So can you tell us like what exactly is an influencer, and can you give us like a behind the scenes look at what your day is like?
Yes-ish to both of those.
Okay.
I feel like for a long time I like hated and still sometimes internally cringe at the word influencer because I think there's such a negative connotation that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. But in the wine world, there's this incredible group of people who are really knowledgeable about wine. Most of us have credentials. We're very passionate. We love it. And it's just somebody who acts as kind of a conduit between wineries and consumers. Like we translate the knowledge because a lot of people in the wine industry like speak the wine nerd terms. Like I love that, but you have to be able to speak consumer too. Yeah. And so it's really just somebody who like is creating content that's fun and engaging and translates the information and brings it to people where they're at on social media. As for what my day-to-day looks like, it really varies. It really varies. I thrive on routine. So I try to structure my day or my weeks kind of like on a day-to-day basis. So Monday, I like sit down and I review what content's doing well. And I write all my scripts for like things that I have coming up that week. I like send recaps of projects if I had paid partnerships to partners and just kind of like get a feel for what's trending. Tuesday is when I film everything. The other perk of doing this bulk thing is I only put on makeup like twice a week. I like to gremlin.
That sounds like my life.
I like gremlin days where I don't see or talk to anybody. I can just like be on a computer.
There you go.
But so Tuesdays I will film everything, edit videos, engage with the community. Wednesday's my client day. So I do have some clients who I do social media for. So I'll run their social media pages or if I have photos to edit, because I do freelance photography as well. That's what Wednesday is for, just things for other people. Thursday is when I write. So I have a website in addition to Instagram. And so I'll do all my content writing on Thursday. And then Friday is a catch-up day, whatever I didn't get done the rest of the week. But the caveat to that is that there's always opportunities to taste with winemakers. There's events. So like yesterday I spent all day over in Lodi. So I did not get any blog writing done, but I made a bunch of content. I met with people. I learned a lot more about the region. A lot of
Petit
really
Syrah and Zinfandel over there, right? In Lodi?
Yes. And like lots of really beautiful old gnarly vines.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I think it's 40% of California's old vines are in Lodi, which I didn't know, but that was pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
And
That's crazy.
I love old vines. They're just so pretty.
Yeah.
They're so pretty. All right. So I'm going to ask a question. So you kind of explained that you brought or like picked up Wine for Dummies, but when did you really decide like, I'm going to make this a career and like launch it?
It was never like a singular moment. It really just kind of happened and didn't happen. Like I never set out to be an influencer or content creator. So at some point, it was when I was doing my WSET 3. I had just moved to California. I had lived in New York prior. I moved out to California for a different corporate job. But I was coming up to wine country all the time because I loved it. I was doing my WSET 3 because I loved it. Mm-hmm. And so I had this moment where I knew I didn't want to work in corporate America forever. But for these corporate companies, like I was doing e-commerce, I was doing digital marketing, I was doing strategy, and I looked at these winery websites that I was visiting and their social media, and most of it was really terrible at the time. It's gotten better, but there's still a lot of really bad winery websites.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, what if someday I work for myself and I do like something with either winery websites, wine strategy, digital marketing strategy, or photography, because I also have a photography background and I loved photography. So that's kind of what I like was like something over here is what I want to do. And I started posting on Instagram as a way to build my photo portfolio and just kind of share about what I was learning and nerd out some more. and accidentally became an influencer along the way. Turns out other people wanted to learn about wine from social media, and I enjoyed sharing about it. And it really just brought together so many pieces of my background in a way that I never expected or even really knew existed when I began.
So, you brought up websites. How important do you think for a winery, how important do you think having a good website is? Like, how many people do you really think go to the website and use it?
I mean, I think it's crucial whether you're doing whether you're selling wine online, like whether that's your goal to sell the wine online, or whether you're trying to get people in your tasting room, they're going to visit the website and they want information, and they want information to be easy. So it doesn't have to be like a complex, like crazy website, but it needs to be easy to navigate. And that's actually, so I did wine with Paige on the side for 3 years-ish, I think. No, 2 years, 2 years before I transitioned full time. And that was really, honestly, talking about winery websites was like what made me make the full dive. It was during 2020 when all of the wineries were panicking and realizing they lost their foot traffic and needed digital traffic.
Right.
And so I started doing winery website feedback sessions for free, because I was still being paid by corporate America at the time.
Yeah.
So I was just having these great calls with winemakers about how they could improve their website, make things easier for people to find and buy their wine. And I realized that was really what I wanted to do.
So did you cold call them, or did you drop off a business card?
Wine with Paige was already 2 years old at that point. So I had a good size audience at the time.
Okay.
So I just posted on there. I posted on there offering the free sessions, and people were more than happy to take me up on it.
Nice.
Yeah. What would you say? Your website sucks. Let me help you. Honestly,
nicely, yes.
You need a facelift, honey.
Yeah, I would go through the whole, I would go through their website. I would look at, if I was a consumer, going in, can I find, can I even find the wine to buy? Can I find information? Why would I want to buy this wine? Now their hours matter. It didn't matter at the time because it was COVID, but or can I even find your events? Because so many people were doing digital events at the time. And I feel to me, as both somebody who worked in e-commerce and was working on websites all the time, but also as generally just a young person who's chronically online, some of the things seem obvious, but they aren't to everybody.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, especially for I hate to say it, but the older generation that didn't grow up with having an iPhone or whatever it is. You really got to dumb it down for all generations. Yeah. And we're just not at the point of this is going to sound terrible, but we're not at the point of getting rid of that older generation that has no knowledge. But I feel people are getting much better with being able to handle social media and just any websites.
I think we had to in 2020 was really a wake up moment for a lot of people.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many people got uncomfortably introduced, I feel to e-commerce.
Yeah.
And also just marketing on social media. So,
yeah.
So with social media and just in general, what wine trend do you absolutely hate?
I don't know that I hate any.
If you hate one.
If you could.
I think I hate the people who hate on wine trends more than anything. Are you on Grape Loop, the wine community for people in the industry?
No.
It's kind of like Slack-ish.
Okay.
For people in the wine industry.
Okay. So people, Grape Loop? I'll write that down.
It's a great website.
Get that down.
But somebody recently on there was complaining about, apparently there's a TikTok trend where people are adding milk to wine.
Yeah.
Okay. There's also another trend that is boxed wine with Sprite. And I saw someone do it and I was like,
I know. I saw like red wine with Coca-Cola one time.
That's popular in Spain. That's been popular in Spain forever.
Oh, it is.
And it's really good.
Is it really good?
It's really good.
Oh, it sounds so gross.
Okay, so you've tried it.
It's like a cherry Coke.
Yeah, I can see if it's like a Mexican Coke, with the cane sugar.
Yeah,
the real sugar instead of like the American Coke. I hate the American Coke.
And then you want like a fruity fresh wine, like a young Tempranillo, like Spain. Something
I'll have to try it.
It's good.
No knock until you try it, I guess. You know.
I know. I've been just hating on this, and I don't even know.
It's good. I also saw.
Did you try it in Spain?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was authentic. It was real.
Yeah, it was an authentic Coke wine.
Authentic Coke.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The other one though that I saw recently was sweet and condensed milk mixed with red wine.
What?
Which sounds disgustingly good. Yeah. And I actually bought a can of it, but I haven't tried it yet.
Okay. You gotta let me know how you like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll try that one.
I
just can't.
I need to find a bottle of wine that I don't mind wasting a glass
Did you just find that online, or were you like, is that at like...
It's trending on TikTok. I just scrolled and it came up.
Okay. Yeah. Like went to the shop or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, or putting wine through like a blender for a while.
Oh, yeah. Or like using
make it frothy.
Frothy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that stresses me out.
Okay, I might hate that one. That might be the wine trend I hate.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, totally.
There's better ways to do that.
Do you need everything to be a latte? I don't know. Well, speaking of other wine regions, do you have a favorite wine region that you've traveled to?
It's hard to choose.
Or like one that you're pleasantly surprised by?
I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot because my life goal is to visit all 50 states and go to a winery in that state.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So I've been to some bad places, but I'm usually...
Yeah, don't don't call out the bad places, obviously, but which states have you been to thus far?
Washington, Oregon, California, Texas, Alabama, Georgia.
Okay.
I've been in Georgia as well for wine. The state.
They like to bring in Napa grapes.
They do.
Oh, interesting.
And juice.
By that. Yeah. More juice than grapes. New York, Connecticut, Tennessee. Tennessee was my first wine region I actually visited right outside Nashville.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Michigan. I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I might be forgetting somewhere, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay. And then have you traveled to like any European areas or?
Yeah. Ooh. And I will say when it comes to like the most beautiful wine regions, those take the cake for sure. Like I was in Chianti Classico a couple of years ago and that was stunning. Last summer I was in the Douro Valley.
Okay.
Okay.
Douro Valley, also incredible because they have the terraced vineyards. Like that was just so cool to see.
Yeah, I really want to see the go to Rias Baixas and see the pergola system that they have for their Albarino there.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That looks really cool. I have not been there yet, but that's high on my list too. Or in Greece, I would love to go to Greece where they do the little nests.
Oh yeah, the baskets.
Yeah, I'm going there in 2025, and I'm so excited. That's excited. Fun. Yeah, I'm gonna go all the places.
Is that your first time going to Greece?
So like back in like 8th grade for my mom's like 50th or whatever, we took a cruise from Spain to Turkey, and I couldn't appreciate it at the time. I probably could have drank. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't. And even if I did, it's not like I could really embrace what I could embrace now.
Yeah.
So,
remember what you had.
Yeah. So I can't even remember what I had last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to Greece and like some of the Greek islands. And then we also are ending up in Italy. So obviously I'll be staying there for a couple extra days to, go see some fun places.
Yeah. I've never been to Europe. I still need to go. No, ever. I need to go.
Yeah, you do.
I need to go.
He had a trip plan, and then And then his passport was going to expire, in like a month?
3 months.
3 months, and they wouldn't let him in.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
I don't really travel. I obviously I don't really travel that often, internationally at least. And I didn't know the whole rule of the EU about the 3 month thing, or some countries at 6 months your passport can't expire. I was one day off. They tried to get me on the plane. They said if your flight was booked yesterday, then you would be on this plane right now. And I'm like, mother.
That's heartbreaking. That's
I
so
know.
sad.
Yeah.
He called me and he's like, you will not believe what happened. And I was like, only to you. Only to you. And he's like working on Duolingo, like working on his French and everything.
Learning French and everything.
Oh gosh, it was so bad.
Luckily,
I
mean, my girlfriend picked me up from the airport, and she was just so bummed out for me that we.
you guys did
at this point
really
we
fun.
just started dating, so she wasn't coming with. I wasn't going to take a Europe trip, with someone just started to date. So she picked me up from the airport, and then she was so nice. She was like, "Okay, let's go to all the Parisian bakeries and kitchens and wine bars in Seattle." And so that's what we did for like the whole afternoon. And I was like, okay, this is good. This is fine.
It's okay.
I'm having a good time right now. This is okay. She's like, you should order in French. I'm like, no.
Settle down there.
Chill out. No.
Oh, that's so sweet of her, though. That's
I know, right?
You need to replan
nice.
now.
So nice.
Best. Yeah, this time she's coming with me since, she's with me still. So
surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly enough. So we talked about trends that you hate, but is there like a tasting note that I wouldn't say hate, but just like disagree with, or you're like, I don't really agree with that tasting note for this varietal or a popular tasting note that's out there?
Like, I don't like how it tastes, or I don't want, like, I think the like note itself is wrong.
Like the note itself, you're like, I don't think that's right.
I think the term foxy is interestingly debated.
Right.
So I grew up in Michigan. Like I've tasted a lot of Michigan wines and a lot of weird. I mean, now my parents are in Georgia, so I've tasted a lot of Southern wines.
Yeah.
I think I know what foxy is. Like I've had a lot of muscadine in my life, a lot of it. But I've gotten into like debates with Psalms who have never had muscadine, but they think they know what like foxy is when you're describing it. And I'm like, I've actually tasted it.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about mousy? Because that one, mousy is one that I wouldn't say disagree with. I just haven't really experienced or know exactly what mousy is. Or I haven't. I don't know.
I feel like it tastes like wet. Like, like, do you ever have a friend who had a hamster?
Yes,
no.
me.
Or have a hamster?
Multiple.
Like, I feel like mousy to me is like what, like when their bedding gets wet. That's what it smells like. It's like wet hamster bedding.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But like,
I've also heard of like day-old kombucha. Like if you have like a kombucha bottle that's been like, you drank half of it and you just leave it on the counter room temperature, and then you try it the next day, it's like furry and it kind of sticks in your throat, like gross. Right here. It's nasty, and that's what
I've never done that. I don't think I want to, based on that descriptor.
Yeah, it's not great. I wouldn't.
So I want to hear that
I wouldn't
story.
recommend it.
I feel like I would be afraid to drink kombucha. I left out.
Yeah, like it's literally.
It's been a while for me. I haven't drank kombucha since college. So
since that experience.
Yeah, since that experience, really. Yeah. I used to be big on kombucha in college. It was all the rage, and then I was like, after that day old one, I was like, I can't get this taste out of my throat because it's stuck in my throat, kind of.
Yeah,
but
I learned to make it once.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
At a winery had an event where they taught us how to make kombucha, which was very. interesting. But then they gave us like everything to take it home and keep doing it, but I was convinced that I was going to poison myself.
I could understand that.
Like the mother SCOBY that yeah.
Have you ever done like blending trials?
Not like in official capacity. Like I've done like where wineries like have blending workshops for like consumers. So I've done that a few times, which is always interesting.
And what have you created?
I have a beautiful blend over here that I'm waiting to try still. It tasted like blueberry pie when I bottled it. I'm curious how it tastes now. It's been like a year.
It's like Aussie Shiraz to me. Blueberry pie.
I like blueberry pie. Yeah. I feel like the most interesting, like insightful one that I did was in Chianti Classico, actually.
That's cool.
It's like they allow small amounts of like Cabernet in blend, and you wouldn't think like 1% of Cab mixed with Sangiovese would make a huge difference, but it completely changes everything. It was really interesting to see like how the very small amounts can make such a big change.
Yeah, that reminds me of those memes that like shitty wine memes, you know, or you know, whoever on Instagram posts, and they're like, "Oh, I can taste that 1% of Petit Verdot."
You
can though, like. Yeah, especially when you're doing blending trials and you see such a huge difference with it. I mean, I'm doing that right now. We're blending for bottling soon, and it's wild what 1% can really do to something. You know,
do you
like Malbec or whatever.
When you're doing your blending trials, do you ever like accidentally forget to take a note of what you made in the testing tube, and you're like, "This was great. What was that?"
Not really. No. Honestly, we're pretty good about writing everything down.
Much more professional than I have been in my blending sessions. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, when we're doing blending, that takes like the whole afternoon. That's like our whole day is like we're doing blending stuff. And so at the first round, we usually taste for faults. We taste each barrel. Like, okay, this one's faulty, or like this one just doesn't have the fruit notes that we want, but it has some earth, so let's mark it for, you know, something to add into a blend for something complex. And then we do like another round for each kind of blend that we're looking at, because we have a couple different, like, you know, Bordeaux blends that we do. And so we have like a high end, a mid tier, and like a low end Bordeaux blends. It's not really like low. It's just like,
approachable.
It's not, level. Yeah, exactly. Approachable, entry level, you know, people pleaser, kind of wine. And so our bottom of the barrel stuff goes into a completely different blend that we don't even sell in tasting room, I don't think. But, so we do about like, I don't know, I taste each barrel probably, 8 different times, I want to say. It's a lot.
All right, let's take a quick break for a second because I got something I want to tell you guys about. If you want an extra episode per week, if you want exclusive discounts on some dope-ass merch that we got, also, if you want to add your 2 cents, your opinions, your hot takes, or your topic ideas, we want to hear about it. Go to patreon.com/official Bung Pod and talk to us. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, we got some news. We have an official Bung Pod store. We got some merch going. bungpod.store. Update your life. Update your wardrobe. You need some new clothes. You need to look fresh. Update your life. Update your style. We got hoodies. We got handbags. We got stickers. We got beanies. We got more coming on the way. So if you like the show and you want to cop yourself some merch, go to bungpod.store. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
It's a rough life.
It's a lot. And so I always have my phone on me. So all my blending notes and stuff, I'm like, okay, it's just like in my phone. Like I don't even have it.
Yeah. And I'm still copied on that. So everything you've been doing, I've been getting notified.
Solid. I'll take you off of that. Yeah.
Because we used to work together and now I'm somewhere else. And so we still have a shared tasting notes. And so all day today, I've just been notified.
I was doing tasting notes for the upcoming releases.
Making you thirsty if you're reading them. Yeah.
I know, for real. I was like, I'm so excited for my interview today.
Good stuff coming up.
So what do you love most about your job, being a blogger and everything that you get to do?
I really love creating. Like, I loved photography and I love storytelling. I used to, before I did this, once upon a time in another life, I used to shoot weddings.
Did you finish like with your business degree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in college, I used to shoot weddings and high school senior portraits, and I really wanted to be a fashion photographer. But I was like, that's not practical. So I'll get a business degree. So I got my business degree and worked in corporate for several years. But the like creativity factor and just having the opportunity to tell stories and engage with people's stories and share those stories is really my favorite part.
Oh, that's so fun. Gosh, she gets me. She's like, another me. Big golfer, wino.
Yep.
Into photography. I'm here for it.
Fun.
Business and marketing.
Business marketing. Yeah.
She's a business lady. I just create things.
Yeah.
And then do post-production.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
I just point fingers and tell them what to do.
Yeah, basically.
I find men typically need that.
Yeah, especially when I'm in business with him. I'm like, all right, here's what your tasks are this week.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Hey, you get it done though.
I try.
And if you don't, you hear it.
I'm always falling behind on everything.
You are.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just the chronic state of everyone's life right now. I don't know anybody who feels like they're up to date on everything they need to be doing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I need to pay my taxes.
I do too.
I did get that done.
I do too. I did not get that done.
Actually, I made my boyfriend do that for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Very
nice.
So, you know.
So I have a question just about social media in general for marketing. Do you still think, because it seems Instagram is so like saturated, do you still think it's a great place to build a community and reach new people? Or do you think there's other social media platforms that are better for reach and then the others more for kind of marketing?
I think Instagram still has a place. I mean, I still know so many people who are pretty much only on Instagram and don't use TikTok. So I think it still has a place. It's definitely changed and evolved in the last couple of years. But I still think it has a place. And I mean, I have great conversations in my DMs all the time with people asking me for recommendations or where they should go or telling me like the wine they're drinking. So I think it's a little bit harder to have community on Instagram in the way during the pandemic, it was so much easier because people were doing Instagram lives and people were chronically online and it was easy. I do think it's gotten harder and it's gotten more saturated, like you said, but I do think it still has a place and I love it.
I will say I love how, I mean, even when we reached out to you, you were so supportive and I mean, I appreciate it so much, but you were really good at responding. And even with so many followers or whatever it is, like it was still you behind the screen. Whereas like some people, they have a social media, but they don't have any control over it. So I really did appreciate that.
Well, thanks. And I think that's somewhere like small wineries can win because it's typically like them behind the scenes answering the DMs, like being able to have those one-on-one conversations with people who are asking like, oh, I have a bottle of your wine. What should I pair it with tonight? Or questions like that. But yeah, thank you. I'm not always, I'll admit I'm not always great at answering my DMs. I'm trying to be better. Another one of my New Year's resolutions, but
hey, well, you
it is always me who answers.
Yeah.
It is you. Exactly.
It's a lot of work for like one person, you know, and you get so many.
Totally.
Especially spam. We get a lot of spam. Crazy.
Also, though, hold on. Circling back, though, to your original question, because I think it is interesting, too. No, I mean, I love it. I think this is such an interesting question because things are evolving so quickly on social media right now. And I think TikTok is really interesting. I know there's the, like, will we still have TikTok in 3-6 months, like, because of the legislation stuff. But I do think TikTok is really interesting from an opportunity to educate consumers, because I think people have longer attention spans on TikTok. Like, I use it to learn things. Like, I will watch a 3-minute, 5-minute long video on there to learn something. Whereas on Instagram, it's still much more aesthetic. So I think it has a place. There's also some like conflicting, confusing stuff though about wineries being on TikTok. So wineries themselves can't, because the platform is still largely under 21. But there's been great examples like Belle Gloss, like their winemaker has a TikTok and he does stuff. And so it's not officially the brand, it's him, but he's obviously using the wine and showing the wine and like.
So a winery, I just got so confused.
Yeah. Technically, a winery should not have a TikTok account because the platform as a whole has like the percentage of age group that's on there is still largely under 21.
Under 21.
I am just like mind blown right now.
People are doing it. It exists.
I mean,
but
I've connected with people on there. I'm not going to name who it was, but
totally.
And then like as a creator, like technically I can't post anything that's directly selling wine on TikTok.
Gotcha.
Interesting. And
that's why we're allowed to be on there, because we just talk about wine, we don't sell it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's cool.
And so, wait, did someone reach out to you, or is it like in the fine print?
It's nobody reached out. This is just a general thing that social media managers are aware of.
Okay.
Based on there was a tipping point for like Instagram, like once upon a time, technically wineries weren't allowed to be on there, but then the platform became older. And so.
Okay. So that kind of
makes sense.
That kind of goes on to the topic back to like websites is when you click on the shop, it says, are you 21?
Mm.
You know how easy it'd be to click yes, even when I'm 15? Like, how do I mean,
it protects the winery. Obviously people can lie, but it protects the winery.
Yeah, just legality.
Because
God, I wish I knew that when I was young.
United States is not friendly to wine or alcohol beverages, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, there's so many weird laws that are left over from like prohibition that are just ridiculous, even in certain states.
Yeah.
Like Alabama being one of those.
Yeah. Utah.
Yeah, Utah.
Yes.
Utah is more of a religious thing, which Pennsylvania used to be that way as well.
Yeah.
But they're getting better.
They changed their laws, I think. Yeah.
Well, Pennsylvania's still a monopoly state, though, right?
I kind of think so. So we know someone that actually works for the distribution company of Pennsylvania. One
of them, yeah.
Yeah, and he came to Washington and did went through all these Walla Walla, Chelan, wherever it was, and was like, okay, we're going to take this one. Like, if you have this amount of quantity, we will take this wine, and we will take that wine. And
he bought pallets of wine to take back. Not take back, obviously, but to ship to Pennsylvania to sell it there.
In like their liquor stores.
Yeah, because it's like state run.
Yes.
When I was doing my WSET 3, I swear I used to have more hours in my day. Like I was working in corporate, I was doing my WSET 3.
Funny how that works.
I was building wine with Paige, and then I also, on top of all of that, was doing like 10 to 12 hours a week for this guy, Martin Reyes, who does all sorts of fun things in the wine industry. And one of them was import distribute. And he like pretty much exclusively worked with Pennsylvania because it was a monopoly state. So like if you could get the buyers for the state to buy the wine, it was like the whole state.
Yeah.
So even for like Utah, you have to go through this whole, you can get your wine in there, but it's like a process. Like, so I actually talked to someone and they're like, I will send you the Excel sheet. And then they had these weird ass numbers and I had no idea what they were. They're like, if it's -1, we need more. Or if it's +1, we need, or like +3, we need less or something. I'm like, what? where are you getting these numbers? First off, but so you could hit like the variety. So like we had a -1 on Riesling, and it also was based on like how much people bought. So if they had a -1 on Riesling, they needed more Riesling, but they would also only take so many companies, and you had to like send them so many pallets because obviously it went to the whole state of Utah. So it's a fascinating way to get wine to Utah. I mean, I know people here in Chelan that live in Utah, but I don't want to expose their secret, but they would send it. There's like a place in Wyoming that they would send their wine to.
Yep.
And like that was the place. And you get it sent to Wyoming and they just pick it up.
Yeah. I have a wine influencer friend who's based in Utah and she does the same thing.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay. That's nice.
Wyoming, they got it going. Whatever it takes, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I have family in Alabama and Georgia, so I go down there. I try to go down there once every 2 years. Sometimes turns into once every 4 sometimes, but I've had a bunch of wine from Georgia, Dahlonega, Georgia specifically.
Oh yeah.
There was a winery I was in Dahlonega, and they had the grapes shipped from, it was Sonoma and then some Napa, and then they had just juice from Washington State. And I was like, that's crazy, just in a refrigerated truck. It's just like so weird.
Yeah.
That's gnarly. And then they were growing grapes on the property too. But I did some viticulture education as well, and I've worked in our vines that we have here, and so I'm familiar with how vines should be propagated, and they definitely weren't doing a great job over there.
Yeah.
In that specific area, at least.
Yeah. It was interesting. So I went wine tasting there this summer with my boyfriend, and because my family's there, so we went up. And it was funny because we were tasting through all the wines, and like I'm like, I need to try local things because I like that's the whole point of my like resolution is to taste wine that's grown in all 50 states. And as we were tasting through, it was funny because like our host like came back and was like, oh, like which one's your favorite? And like consistently time after time, my boyfriend's favorites were the ones that were sourced from Napa or Sonoma. And like he wouldn't know ahead of time, and then he'd be like, I like this one. And
it's funny because we had we have a friend. We did an interview with her actually, Bree, and she, I think it was in Michigan, and because
she's from Michigan.
She's also from there, and she goes to this winery and they do a tasting, and it was a blind tasting, and I don't know if it was the same variety or if it's just a general tasting, but she goes, at the end she goes, I really like this particular wine, and they go, oh, well, that's from Walla Walla. And she's like, yep, that sounds right.
Yeah.
But literally all the rest were from Michigan or wherever, and she just happened to fall back on Washington because that's what
she knows her stuff too. She went through her wine education, and she's a rep for Cruise Selections, which is a local Washington distributor here, importer as well.
There's definitely like truth to be said about like having a house palate to wherever you drink frequently.
Totally.
1000%. Yeah. I still have, I think, a house palate for Santa Barbara wines.
I think you do.
They're
too.
just the most interesting to me. I have a
they
house
are good
palate
wines
for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely have a house palate in Chelan. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm still learning Washington too, because I grew up here, but after high school, I went down to Santa Barbara, and that's where I picked up wine, was down there. And I was working in production. I was a manager of tasting room, and then worked at a wine shop as well. And I tried so many local Santa Barbara wines, especially Pinot Noir from like Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria Valley, and then Chardonnay. And they're Rhones, the kind of lighter, elegant style of like Grenache that's beautiful. And I just crave those kinds of wines now. And then coming up to Washington, I'm like learning more about the state still. I still don't know as much, I feel like, as I should, because the winery I work for, I keep it usually pretty ambiguous on the podcast of who I work for, but they're all estate. And so I came here because I was kind of excited because I heard a lot of Washington winemakers source from different vineyards. And I was like, cool, I've been to all these different vineyards within Santa Barbara. I'm excited to go and see other vineyards. And then I came here and I was with one vineyard the whole time. And it's totally fine because they're making good wines now. And I love them to death. But I was excited to go see the rest of the state, so now I have to do my own kind of traveling. I've been to Walla Walla now and been to like the Red Mountain area. I still need to do more traveling over here.
Well, it just shows the importance of regions. I mean, even down to the Washington, like to the state AVAs.
Yeah. Where in California, I did a lot of blind tasting with my tasting groups and my friends in the industry, and I felt like there was a lot of like taste variation between like Napa, Sonoma, Paso, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo. I felt like there was a big taste variation between those AVAs, and then coming up here, it's so subtle sometimes to me, because I feel like they're all, I don't know, California's a really big state, so there is that.
Yeah. It's
long. But Washington is kind of short. But yeah, it's so interesting. I'm still kind of learning the tasting portion of like different vineyards, like where they're grown, like Walla Walla versus Red Mountain versus Yakima, et cetera, et cetera. But
how long have you been there now?
I've been here for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up north of Seattle.
Really? Yeah. I feel like I've dealt with you longer than that.
Yeah, 2 years, man. That's it.
Huh. Interesting.
2 years. April 22.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. It's been crazy. But I have a question for you because you kind of mentioned that you're like the liaison between the general like consumer or wine consumers and winemakers that, and also sommeliers that could have just more head knowledge and more technical vocabulary to explain things. And I agree with you that I feel like a lot of times it just kind of goes over the head of a lot of people when they're trying to taste wine or trying to learn about it. So for people new to wine, this is a two-part question. Do you have advice for them? Also, do you have any wines that you would recommend to them as well?
Biggest thing is to taste as much as you can. So as soon as I finished Wine for Dummies, I started going through each of the 12 noble varieties, 18 noble varieties. It's been a long time since I did this, but like each of the main grape varieties, I would sit down once a week. I would go buy a nice bottle from my wine shop and I would make a dinner that was supposed to pair with it, like traditionally pair with it. Awesome. And I would sit down, try the wine, try the pairing, like read about it while I was drinking it, be a nerd. It was like my me date time. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But that taught me a lot. Like I started to develop a palate. I realized what I liked. It gave me an opportunity to actually experience what I was reading about. And so, I mean, there's no substitute for tasting. You can read as much as you want, but like it comes down to actually tasting things. And then to develop that too is to smell everything, like literally everything. Yes. Like smell fruits in the grocery store, smell socks, smell hamster cages, smell everything.
So
I need to figure out the mousy thing, man.
So when I first met him, he was telling me about that. And I was like, I get it. I understand why you're doing this. But like, if I saw you in a grocery store, I would be like, what is this crackhead doing? Like
just smelling everything,
scratching the orange and be like, oh yes, that's citrus.
Yeah. And orange peel smells different than like the actual inside of an orange.
Yeah,
Totally.
versus the pith.
Yeah. Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Big difference, man. I was doing tasting notes today. We came with some crazy ones, which is fun.
And
You always have some weird ass crazy notes.
And like the more you smell and the like nerdier you get about it, the more developed your aroma dictionary gets. And so
Totally.
it's just practice. Biggest thing is practice. Drink all the wine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you do very much blind tasting at all?
Not typically. Because I mean, with what I do, I've thought about it for reviewing wine purposes. And it might be kind of fun to do. But typically, I mean, because I'm talking to consumers, I feel like it makes sense to have all the information a consumer would have. So no, I don't usually blind taste. Every once in a while I do for fun. I also joke that it's a party trick.
Totally.
If you're
you're good at it, then it is. It can be.
I'm not good at it. I'll admit that.
Neither am I.
If you're at a party and it's not wine industry people, it's easy to do there because it's almost always a cab, a Pinot, a Chardonnay, a Sauv Blanc. And nobody expects you to go beyond that. So if you can name that variety, people are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So do it as a party trick, but never with industry people. Ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm out. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I used to do it all the time with my buddy Axel. We kind of came up in the wine industry together, and he's a winemaker now in Santa Barbara still. I was just down there last weekend, and I got to see him, which is nice. But yeah, we used to blind taste each other. And we used to do the three, you have to guess the region, the grape variety, and the vintage. And that was our goal for sure, is to learn as much as we can about it. And also the winemaker at Carhart, Chase Carhart, he used to blind taste me on grape variety because obviously it's going to be from the same area. It's his winery. So
yeah, we did a blind tasting recently, and I brought a local wine. Actually,
I botched that so
bad, and it's a winery that he should know very well, actually, or decently well. And then he brought a Chardonnay, and I'm not gonna say I hate Chardonnays because there's a lot of Chardonnays I have found that I like, but immediately I tasted it and I looked at him and I was like, why do I want to just immediately say Chardonnay right now? And it was a Chardonnay, and that was the only time I've ever gotten it right.
Well, that was your first Burgundy too that you've ever had. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So I was just immediately knew. Yeah. So at least I know. At least I can say I know my Chardonnays.
You do. You definitely do.
Yeah.
There you go.
I tried to bring you one that you would actually guess. So there's that.
What's wrong with you?
Don't take it away.
Help
let her have her ego moment.
Thank you, Paige. Thank you. God,
an asshole. That's
yeah. The guy who I used to work for, Martin Reyes, he's a master of wine. So I feel like every time I meet up with him, he also tries to blind taste me. He'll be like, what is this?
I love those friends. Oh my God.
But awesome. I feel like because I know him well enough, I know what he gets excited about, that I can usually get close using the context clues of him.
Totally. Yeah.
I cheat.
I've done that before. Yeah. They're like, okay, what is his budget? Let me see. Is this Chattanooga Pop or is this Chicken Dos?
So at the winery that I currently work at, we actually have a sandstone Chardonnay, which is super unique, definitely different. But I have been, and I put it at the first of our tasting list. So anytime before they even grab the menu and can look at the tasting menu, I'm like, are you planning on doing a tasting? And then I hand them the first tasting and say, try this. And don't look at the menu, see how you like it. And they're like, and then I ask, what do you think it is? Work on their taste buds, especially, as a tasting, you gotta work on those little things. And they're like, maybe a Sauv Blanc or a Pinot Gris. And then I'm like, actually, it's a Chardonnay, but it's fermented in sandstone. And so it's really fun to see the different vessels and show what grapes can do. I mean, the whole like, but I hate buttery Chardonnays, blah blah blah, and it even goes down the same path as like Merlots.
Yeah.
You know, seems like there's always a bad rep about Merlots and Chardonnays. And
Chardonnay is so misunderstood. I love
so misunderstood.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that, and every person that's just like, when I do it, they're like, well, now I kind of want to buy a bottle of Chardonnay because I actually like this one and because I blind tasted them. And, you know, I understand the whole, I don't like buttery Chardonnays or blah, blah, blah. And I do love stainless, but the sandstone is very unique. And if you haven't had one, you should definitely try it.
My hot take is that I love buttery Chardonnay, but I also really like it at a cold room temperature. Like,
okay,
my friend
Room
has
temperature, but a little like chilled.
like
room?
not like a hot room, but like, I mean, I keep my house pretty cold because I have wine.
Like cellar temp, like
yeah.
55.
But I like it a little warmer than cellar temp. And it's funny because I have a video of one of my best friends literally calling me a sociopath because of this. I like just found it again yesterday and sent it to her. I was like, remember when you were really mean because I like my room temperature buttery Chardonnay? Thanks.
Do you go around and rotate all your bottles like every so often?
No, not formally. No.
Yeah.
Not formally. When I'm looking for something, yes.
Yeah.
How many bottles do you think you have in your little cellar?
I'm not sure right now. At one point, it was over 400.
Oh my goodness!
But I think I've been trying to. I mean, the reason I have them is to taste them and go through them. So I've been trying to be better about making my way through them.
So do you think you have more or less than 400?
It's probably less than 400. It's probably somewhere between 200 and 400 right now.
What a
there's
problem
like
to
12
have.
boxes that
I know where to come to your house if we ever really shut down.
Please come help.
I think I had like 250 whatever bottles, and then we started this podcast. Now I'm like down to, probably, I don't know, 75.
You need an excuse and someone to drink with, because that was my problem the longest time, because I had moved up to Napa in January of 2021 and things were still shut down. That was like the second wave, like post-holiday of shutdowns.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like it took like a good year and a half for the world to be normal. And so it took until like really this last year to like make local friends and feel like I had a community here. And so like I was just like sitting on the bottles being like, well, can't drink them all alone.
That's literally why we started the podcast, is so we can drink our wine. I need to start breaking out mine more.
Wine is so much more fun with friends.
Totally. Yeah. Especially with someone you can appreciate it with.
Yeah. I don't like opening wine by myself unless it's like a bottle that I really don't give a shit about. Stuff that I love, I'm just like, I feel like it's wasted on me.
Well, and I like warn him, like if I have things to do later, I'm like, open a bottle that's like meh. And then when I have time, I'm like, all right, let's get bougie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a specific section on my rack that's for because it's usually not me who wants to open wine, like just like
after like 2 bottles.
Well, like so it's specifically for my boyfriend to open when I'm like, I'm not drinking tonight. You want wine? Choose from that box. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, you can appreciate it.
But don't open the good stuff.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
not at all, because now I'm gonna have to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so fun. I love it.
It's funny.
So,
my girlfriend, she likes wine. She used to work in the industry. She works in the restaurant industry now. But she just never drinks it, like ever. If she opens a bottle, she'll never open a bottle by herself. It has to be with someone else, because she'll drink like a half of a glass and be like, I'm done for the whole evening.
I will say I love my Coravin for that reason. Because if wine is part of a meal to me. So like if I'm home alone, I don't really want, like, I don't want to open a whole bottle, but I still want wine as part of the meal. And so I will Coravin.
I actually got pretty much like my in-laws and also my parents that, and they're like, so what do I do with it? I'm like, when you don't want the whole bottle, This is a solution.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you like don't want the whole bottle though? And I'm like, oh my God.
Every time I post about the Coravin, there's people who are like, why don't you just open the bottle? Like, or I've been using it more. I have like a girl dinner series with pairings. And so like,
I
girl
love
dinner,
it, by the way.
Thank you. I'm not going to open like a whole bottle for girl dinner. Like, I just want my one glass. And there's so many people every time I show using the Coravin in those videos where they're like, why don't you open it? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I feel like that whole concept is underrated, especially at least here in the US. Is just like, no, you don't have to just open the bottle and get hammered.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, actually, going back to your question about wine trends that I hate, I think that's that's
right
something it does so well on social media. Anytime I'm like, haha, I'm drinking from the bottle, like doing something ridiculous, like, but I don't like I show that very, very little because I don't like it. Like, that's not what wine is to me. Wine is about like community and coming together and the stories, and it's part of the meal. Like, it's not.
I feel like you show that very well on your social media. I feel like you show that so well. Like,
thanks.
You're very really elegant in your approach, and you show your love for wine all the time. But you're not like crazy excessive about like, oh, drink the whole bottle and like let's get nuts, which is it's awesome. So you're doing a great job.
I'll admit, with the views that type of content gets, it's tempting sometimes, but that's not what I bet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I can see that. Paige, anything that you've got going on that you want to plug at all?
Yes. So I have a bunch of fun, free downloadables for people both in the wine industry and consumers. I have a checklist for how to work with wine influencers for small wineries. And then I also have free Napa maps and Sonoma maps and all sorts of guides on winewithpaige.com/downloads. And then please follow me on Instagram at winewithpaige.
Awesome. You guys heard it here. All of her links will be in the show notes. So go check out the show notes. It'll be the first thing you see when you go to the description of this episode. It'll be her links. So go there, support her. She's awesome. She's doing a great job. She loves wine. She's a great educator. So go support. Thank you, Paige. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Cheers.